Thank you for tuning in to this week's episode of Empowered Living Podcast by Empowered Life Church. We hope it blesses you.
Today is an exciting day for me. Today is my first time sharing a message up here. So I have a little mixed nervousness in with the excitement, but I'm excited because I believe the Lord has put a message on my heart to share with you today. Obedience is a funny thing. So previous to this, saying yes to speaking, it was suggested several times, "Hey, Audra, you should speak." And my answer was always, without hesitation, absolutely not. No, not going to happen. And obedience. It's one of those things where I was like, okay, Lord. So I started having a conversation with him. If I'm supposed to speak, you're going to give me something passionate to speak about. It's going to be easy. It's going to come to me. I'm going to feel super confident. How many of you know that's not how obedience works? So I waited and I waited and I waited, and I talked to the Lord. I was like, well, he must not want me to speak. So I just won't. But the last time I was asked to speak, I was in a meeting, and Erica here put my name up on the board because we needed to fill November 12th. And I was like, that's funny. And I felt this tug inside of my heart. And I was like, you should say yes. And I was like, he hasn't given me anything. I don't feel confident. I don't feel ready. But the Lord said, you need to say yes. So I swallowed my nervousness and I said, okay, I said yes, I'm going to do it. And I was like, of course, your name's already on the board. And I was like, yeah, but I also had to say yes to that. And literally, the word yes came out of my mouth, and I knew exactly what I was going to speak on. Literally, it left my mouth, and I heard the word abide. So today I'm going to be speaking to you about what it means to abide in the Lord. To abide means to stay or remain. To abide in the Lord means that we continually receive, believe, and trust that Jesus is everything we need. To abide suggests acceptance without resistance or protest. I love that. Suggests acceptance without resistance or protest. So that means we actually have to fully surrender to the Lord, to fully abide in him, to be seamless, to have a seamless connection and relationship with him. We have to completely surrender all that we are to him and trust him. So before I continue, I'm just going to ask the Lord to join us. I'm going to say a quick prayer. Heavenly Father, Lord, I just pray that you fill this place with your amazing, incredible presence. Lord, I ask that every heart in this room encounter you, encounter who you are. And Lord, I just ask that you fill my mouth and my heart with what you have given me to say today. May every person walk out of here a different person than they walked in because you encountered them. And you abided in this room with every single person. Amen. John 15 is probably one of the most popular verses for abiding in him. This is from the NIV. I am the vine, and my Father is the gardener. He cuts off every branch in me that bears no fruit, while every branch that does bear fruit, he prunes so that it will bear more fruit. You are already clean because of the word I have spoken to you. So why is it important for the Lord to cut off the branches that don't bear fruit? The way I see it is it's a waste of nutrients. It's a waste of energy. Those things in our life that we carry that don't bear fruit perhaps have been there for a very long time. It's hard to part with some of those things because they've always been there, or we find security in them somehow, but they don't bear fruit. So the Lord wants to cut them off. I don't want any of my energy or nutrients, if you're talking about the vine, to be wasted on something that doesn't bear fruit. I want all that I am, all that's within me, to go into the things that bear fruit. So several years ago, my husband and I did a 21-day detox. It wasn't fun. And the premise of the detox was we ate no solid food. So it was all liquid. We would take vegetables, and that's all we ate was vegetables. So there was no fruit, there was no sugar, there's no carbs, like nothing else. It was literally just vegetables. And they would be cooked up, boiled down, and put them in a blender, and that was our lovely dinner, was we would drink this soup. We juiced, we took the vegetables, and, for lunch and breakfast, we, would drink the liquid food. It wasn't a lot. My husband actually called it the baby food diet. Ask him about it, he really loved it. So the first 7 days of this detox were awful. We were hungry, we were grouchy, we didn't sleep well. Things were surfacing that were in us as we cleansed our bodies, right? All the good things that were in there were pushing all the icky out. I think sometimes when those branches, the Lord comes in and he wants to remove those, we're grouchy about it a little bit, right? I don't want to part with that. This hurts. This doesn't feel good. And he says, it's okay. Because you know what? After the 7th day of this detox, we did feel good. Our energy returned. We were no longer hungry because we were getting the nutrients we needed, but our body wasn't spending so much time breaking down the food that was in our stomach and digesting it. So how many of you have had a meal where you eat and you're like, oh, I'm ready for a nap, right? You get tired and sleepy. Well, it's because your body's going to your stomach to break down the food, digest the food, and it's doing less for other things in your body, like healing your body, giving yourself energy. So if we can allow the Lord to remove those things, eventually, through some of the pain and whatever, letting go, we get to see life. And all of those things go into the things that produce fruit in our life. And we're not wasting energy with the things that don't produce fruit. So pruning. While every branch that does bear fruit, he prunes so that we'll be even more fruitful. You are already clean because of the word I have spoken to you. So pruning is the reward for fruitfulness. So when we have fruit in our life, the Lord comes in and prunes it so that we can have even more fruit in the next season. So my mom, when I was growing up, had lots of rose bushes in her yard. And the pruning process, I remember the first time I saw her prune a rose bush. So it was lovely, it was beautiful all season long, and it had flowers and blooms. And then at the end of the season, when there was no longer any bloom, she would cut the rose bush down to like sticks. I was like, oh, what did you do to the rose bush? You ruined it. She said, no, I'm preparing it for its next season. Pruning it in this manner allows it to bear even more fruit in the next season. So pruning is the reward for fruitfulness. The pruning process is a cleansing of the areas of the life of your life that need to produce more fruit. So cutting off the dead blooms, the dead flowers in the case of the rose bush, right? Getting rid of all the things that once produced life, but they went through their season. And in the next season, they're taking off the things that no longer are needed so that it can have even more. The Greek word for pruning, and I'm going to mess this up, is kathero, which can also mean cleansing. So in in that verse at the end, you are already clean, been pruned because of the word I have spoken to you. Pruning is not done by his hand, but by his spoken word. And I thought that was interesting. Bill Johnson said something on this very topic. Everything transfers when he speaks. The Holy Spirit will take what is mine and declare it to you. Every molecule is held in place by his word. Everything is defined, everything is empowered, everything is created, everything is sustained through his word. So when it says you're already clean because of the word I have spoken to you, I think of those seasons where I just have to pause and hear his voice, right? Lord, what do you want from me in this season? Lord, what do you need to cut away so that I can produce more fruit even in the next season? Because I don't want to live where I'm at. I want to continue to go to glory, to glory, to glory. So living in the word, the Bible, right? The written word, and also listening to his spoken word. In John 15, verse 4, remain in me as I also remain in you. No branch can bear fruit by itself. It must remain in the vine. Neither can bear fruit unless you remain in me. So last weekend I was at a leadership conference at Bethel, and Bill Johnson said something that stuck with me. Prayer is not talking. It's abiding in his presence and inviting him in and abiding in his words. It's a seamless connection between the vine and the branches. So seamless is the key, right? When we have a seamless connection, a seamless relationship, when we seamlessly abide in Jesus, his thoughts become our thoughts. His desires become our desires. His dreams become our dreams. The things that I struggled with before, or the things that I don't want to let go of in my life, the things that I feel like are going to be so hard to let go of in my life, he doesn't want those things. So if I'm seamlessly abiding in who he is, I don't want them either, right? So it's just as simple as I don't have to go through 20 million steps and, I abide in who he is. It's a seamless connection with Jesus. And I all of a sudden don't want those things so much anymore because, I'm seamlessly connected to him. So I'm going to tell you a little story. You guys get to know me a little bit better today. About when I was 8 years old. And some might have heard me tell this story before. But I was a gymnast. I started gymnastics when I was 4 years old. By the time I was 8 years old, I was starting to be competitive and was a competitive gymnast for many, many years. Well, on my first gymnastics competition, I was warming up on the parallel bars, and I slipped, and I fell, and when I fell, I reached. In that moment, I compound fractured my forearm, I broke my elbow, and I dislocated my shoulder. My arm literally crumpled. And when I said compound fractured, like bone was sticking out. Sorry about the details. And in that moment, I instantly went into shock. My body could not take the traumatic injury that just took place. And in my mind, nobody saw what happened. I was like, oh my gosh, I see this. Nobody knows. What am I going to do? What am I going to do? I couldn't hear anything. I could barely see anything. And my mom at the time was my coach. And just when I thought, I kept trying to scream and say something, but nothing would come out. And I saw my mom come to me, and I could read her lips, and she said, oh my God, my baby broke her arm. And I was like, oh, thank God someone saw it. And I fell back. And next thing you know, I open my eyes, and I'm surrounded by several adults. And I had one lady who was a nurse, and she's like, Audra, it's going to be okay. You're going to be okay. And I remember as an 8-year-old girl, I go, you don't know that. You don't feel the pain I'm feeling. I am not going to be okay. I'm going to die. I am literally going to die right now. This is awful. I can't take it. And in that moment, little did I know, the enemy started whispering lies into my ear. The trauma of what had just taken place left me completely open to that as a little 8-year-old girl. Audra, you're going to get hurt. You're going to, not only did this bad thing happen to you, but bad things are going to happen to you. In fact, you're probably going to die. I believed that. And I don't know if you guys remember being 8 years old. There's this feeling of invincibility, right? Your parents tell you, don't jump on the bed, don't do this, don't do that. And you're like, I'm fine. Well, in that moment, I realized that I was invincible and bad things can happen and that they would happen. And I continued to believe that lie for 4 years of my life, from when I was 8 years old till I was about 12 years old. And it wasn't just like a little bit of believing that. I couldn't go to my friends' houses to stay the night because if I did, my parents might die. I might die. I would have anxiety attacks. I couldn't breathe. And this is, I think of my son here who's 11 years old. And in those times, I literally thought that every day was my last. So before we had phones where we could Google diseases and what's wrong with us and all of our symptoms, right? I had this disease book at home. And I would go through the pages and I go, oh my gosh, I have scarlatina. I have the measles. I have the mumps. Like, I truly believed it, and I truly believed that every day was my last. Can you imagine, someone his age thinking that every day was their last? For 4 years, this was my life. Until one day, so I'm a pastor's kid, and it was like the renewal days, we had what we were calling renewal meetings, where we would come and we would get prayed for, and I saw people encounter the Lord in powerful ways. It wasn't even about the manifestation, although I did see manifestations. It was the change in the person's life when they left the room, right? And I had seen that so many times with so many other people that one day, and I was 12 years old, I remember going to this meeting and I said, Lord, I am so exhausted. I am so tired of carrying this. I can't do it anymore. I'm going to sit here on this floor until you take this from me. I can't carry it anymore. No one laid hands on me, although laying on of hands, I'm not saying it's not good. But little did I know in that moment what I was really doing was abiding in him. It was a seamless connection. It was a trusting relationship that I invited him in, and I gave away what I couldn't carry anymore. And I remember laying there, and I thought I fell asleep, and I was like, woke up, well, shoot, that didn't work. Until a couple weeks later, I was doing things that I thought I would never be able to do. I was hanging out with my friends. I didn't have fear. I wasn't carrying anxiety. It was literally just gone. And there was no I've arrived. It was just like this realization oh my gosh, it's gone. Lord, thank you. Thank you for taking that from me. Yes. So I was healed and restored, and the enemy was silenced in my head. And I no longer believe those lies because, again, seamless abiding means, and I didn't even consciously make that decision, as a 12-year-old girl, but I was seamlessly abiding in him. And that fear could no longer exist with that seamless connection. And it was gone. John 15, verse 5 through 8. This is from the Passion Translation. I am the sprouting vine, and you are my branches. As you live in union with me as your source, fruitfulness will stream from within you. But when you live separated from me, you are powerless. If a person is separated from me, he is discarded. Such branches are gathered up and thrown into the fire to be burned. But if you live in life union with me, and if my words live powerfully within you, then ask whatever you desire, and it will be done. When your lives bear abundant fruit, you demonstrate that you are my mature disciples who glorify my Father. So what source are you pulling from? What are you partnering with in your life? If you're not sure about the answers to those questions, Your fruit will likely give you your answer. If you're feeling powerlessness, fear, anxiety, constant exhaustion, hopelessness, lack of direction, lack of purpose, perhaps you're not partnering with the right source. Of course, I understand that there's always trials and challenges in our lives that are hard, and you don't always feel an abundance of all the good stuff, right? But when, again, we're seamless, we have a seamless connection with Him, it's not as much of a heavy burden to carry. It's lighter. You get through it. You still are able to feel some of the good fruit, like feeling powerful, refreshed, prosperous, energized, purpose in your life, hopeful, and abundance. Those are the fruits that resemble a seamless connection. I love how Ian Carroll last week had said, "What are your dominant thoughts and a speed of obedience?" And a lot of the times what we're thinking about, if we're constantly thinking about the powerlessness, the hopelessness, all of those things, guess what? That's going to be the fruit in your life. But if your dominant thoughts are number one in connection with Him, but I am powerful, I do have purpose. Lord, what do you say about me? Because I know what everyone else, what I hear and, but what do you say about me? That's where you know you have a seamless connection in the source that you're pulling from, because the fruit is good. So I told you a story about when I was 8 years old, right? From 8 to 12. And after being delivered from fear and anxiety and everything that I was carrying, I did have good fruit in my life. I had purpose. I felt like I could do anything again. It was almost like that spirit of the 8-year-old girl came back into my life before the injury of I can do anything. And people were drawn to me because I was connected to Him. And how many of you know, even the people that don't know that that's Jesus, there's sometimes that even not so good people are drawn to you because of what you carry. And in my immaturity, I thought that all of those good things, well, maybe were because of something I did, right? And so my seamless connection began to pull away, and it wasn't quite so seamless. I knew who my God was. I remembered that time when I was 8 years old and I got healed and delivered. But I started to pull from other sources. I started to pull from sources of the world, from my own ability, what I could do, right? Those are all God-given abilities, but in my mind, I could do those things because the fruit was so good. Like, I can do it all, right? And I was probably about 19, 20 years old, and I moved out, and I started to have a taste of freedom in my life, and I started to make some bad decisions. A lot of people in my life that were pulled to me were toxic by nature, and I thought that I could fix them. I was going to rescue everybody. And they all came to me to be rescued because they saw that what I had, and they wanted more of that. But without the connection, they were toxic. They were unhealthy. And I was not making great decisions. And one of the not so great decisions in my life wasn't just my friendships, but my romantic relationships. So my boyfriend at the time. And we brought out the very worst in each other. And it was an abusive relationship that only got worse as I continued to think that I could help him, that I could save him somehow, right? And I'll spare you all the details, but I was not making good decisions, and I was far from seamless. And I remember one night, we were having one of our really awesome fights that we always had. And it was toxic, and it was out of control. And so bad, like so ghetto, honestly. Let's just be real. that the authorities were called and they showed up to my house. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this isn't me. Like, I'm a pastor's kid. This doesn't happen, right? And I started to see some of those things in my life that were surfacing. I struggled with anxiety. I had fear again. I had all of those things, and it was like this swirling, whirling thing that just I couldn't push down. And then one night, in the midst of this one night where it was just this super awesome ghetto fight, I hear a knock at my front door. And I open the door, and there was a lady standing there. I believe this lady to be an angel. Not at the time, I didn't think that, but I do now. And she said, "You need to go on a walk with me." And I contemplated for a minute. Well, going on a walk with a complete stranger, that doesn't sound like something I would do. But everything inside of me said, I need to go on a walk with you. I need to go on a walk with you. My boyfriend at the time came over. He's like, "You're not going on a walk with her." I said, "I'm going on a walk with her." I grabbed my purse and I went on a walk with this lady. I can't tell you to this day what her face looked like, what she was wearing. We went on a walk. We talked. I cried. I was telling all these details of my life to this person that I didn't even know, and she listened. And then we walked back. I don't even know how long, honestly, that we were gone. And we came back to the pathway to my front door, and she said, "Audra, are you going to go back inside?" And I thought about it for a minute, and I felt like the Lord just kind of came over me and said, "Audra, you have a choice to make right now. You continue making the decisions. You go back in that house without coming to me as your source. This is what your life is going to look like. In fact, this is just a taste of what your life is going to look like forever. Or you can choose me. It's not going to be easy. I knew that. Walking away from an abusive relationship, you don't just go, okay, done, bye. I knew it was going to be hard because most of the time I stayed in it because it was easier to stay in it than it was to get out of it. And I didn't believe that that was my life because I wasn't capable of such grossness. And then I kind of came to and I answered the lady, I said, yes, I am going to go back in the house, but I know what I have to do now. So I went back in, I said goodbye, and I left. Not again, it wasn't that easy. It could be complete freedom. But I continually stepped into him. I continually started to go from what wasn't seamless back into a seamless connection. Because I couldn't do anything without him. None of it. And as I came back into connection and relationship with him, I started to see good fruit in my life again. I met my husband, Jordan, in that time. And I got promoted. I was working 2 jobs at the time, wasn't taking care of myself, was making really bad decisions. But I got promoted, so I only had to have 1 job. Fruit started to come back into my life. And I remember, he always brings me back to that time on the floor when I was 12 years old, and he said, this is where you need to come. When you start feeling that dizzying effect of fear and anxiety, and the enemy is telling you lies, come back to that place on the floor where all you had to do is connect with me and say, I'm so tired of what I'm carrying. I can't carry this burden anymore, and I don't want it anymore. And he takes it. Again, it's not always easy, but it's lighter than it could be just by giving it up, fully surrendered. So, when you stay attached to the vine, you get the fruit that lasts, right? It's lasting fruit. John 15, 9 through 17, verse 9 through 17. This is from the NIV. As the Father has loved me, so I have loved you. Now remain in my love. If you keep my commands, you will remain in my love, just as I have kept my Father's commands and remain in his love. I have told you this so my joy may be in you and that your joy may be complete. My command is this: love each other as I have loved you. Greater love has no one than this, to lay down one's life to one's friend. You are my friends if you do what I command. I no longer call you servants, because a servant does not know his master's business. Instead, I have called you friends, for everything that I have learned from my Father, I have made known to you. You did not choose me, but I choose you, and appointed you so that you may go and bear fruit, fruit that will last. And so that whatever you ask in my name, the Father will give you. This is my command: love each other. So the fruit that we bear is not just for us. It's also for those around us who God also loves fiercely. So not only do I work here at Empowered Life Church, but I also work at Starbucks. And Starbucks can be crazy, chaotic, stressful, full of people. And if any of you know people, people can be messy. And sometimes there's moments where I'm just like, I can't be here anymore. I'm so stressed out, and just feel overwhelmed. And then I remember, guess what? I can be seamless even in here, right? It's not just in our home. It's not just in church. It's not just in our prayer time that we get to be seamless and abide in him, but it's in everything we do. And we practice doing that in everything we do. It becomes easy. It becomes a split second to be able to go, I'm feeling that swirling feeling. I abide in you. In fact, there's times where the other people also are so messy that I'm like, okay, Lord, I invite you into this. I invite you into my work environment right now. And I'll walk by and just kind of touch someone's back and say a little blessing over them. Little do they know that I prayed for them. But all of a sudden, you get to see this joy. And the environment shifts and the environment changes simply because I made a choice to abide in him in that moment, even in the stress, even in the mess. In the notes in the NIV from the verse I just read you, it says, the Christian way is never dreary, for Jesus desires his disciples' joy to be complete. So as we seamlessly abide with him, he releases his perfect joy, and we get to release that joy to our environment and our circumstances. Last quote from Bill Johnson. Consciousness of God is not a mental effort. It's a heart effort. It's not a mental exercise. It's a heart exercise. It's a place of yielding, of surrender, of acknowledgement, and our mind follows behind and gains understanding and matures. Right? It starts here, and our mind follows. A lot of the times, we're all up here. We don't allow our heart to do the work, because that's where he is. So as I was preparing this message, I was praying, and I was like, okay, Lord, I'm going to practice abiding in who you are, because I knew he had given me the word that abide is what I was going to speak on. And he gave me an amazing vision that I'm going to share with you. So in my prayer, I said, Lord, show me your face. I want to see your face. A lot of the times, we seek his face, but I can't see it. I can see details of him, but not necessarily his face. And I was like, Lord, in that moment, I was starting to get frustrated. I was like, show me your face. And he said, Audra, I want you to stop and feel my presence. I want you to relax and feel who I am. And then I got my vision. And in the vision, I was floating in space. Sounds funny. And when I felt his presence, he was in front of me. And I could see his face. I could see details of his face. And as I sat there in his presence, I could see our hearts. It wasn't two hearts, it was just one heart. It was beating between both of our chests. It was one heart beating between both of our bodies. And when I was in that place of surrender, and that place of just like seeing our hearts beat together as one, I looked down at my feet, and my feet were able to take traction. Where I was once floating in the atmosphere, I was taking traction, like gravity wasn't even a thing. And my footprints lit up. And when I walked, the light that came from my feet, he was like, that's the glory that is coming from your feet. You are with me. You are in a seamless connection with me. And you get to release your glory, my glory, sorry, not my glory, his glory, to the environment around you. And I was able to take traction, and I was able to move. And then everything inside of me didn't just want to walk, I wanted to run. And I ran, and I ran, and I saw light, the light from my feet just light up the entire atmosphere around me. The whole place was glowing. It was incredible. It's like, that's my glory. That's what happens when you carry me in a seamless relationship, in a seamless connection, and you come completely surrendered to who I am and you trust who I am. You get to release my glory just by running, just by moving. You get to release my glory. So in closing today, we're going to practice doing that. We're going to do a little activation. So Jordan, if you will turn on some soaky music. I just want you guys to get comfortable. If this feels weird, it's not. It's just abiding in his presence. In that moment when I was praying with him and I wanted to see his face, it was simply just surrendering to who he was, letting our hearts beat as one, and I got to experience his glory. So if you guys just want to close your eyes, don't worry about the person next to you. Just worry about entering into his presence, completely surrendering to him. I've had this activation done in the past, and they talk about an elevator, and the point of the elevator is to get from your head to your heart. So I just want you guys right now to enter into that elevator. And you're going to go from your head to your heart, because we're going to do a mental shift to our heart. And this is a heart exercise. As you come out of the elevator of your heart, I just want you to look at what's around you. Lord, reveal to everyone in the room what you want them to see. And as he shows you things, ask him questions. Lord, why are you showing me what you're showing me? Lord, is there anything you want me to know? Lord, we connect our hearts to your heart. And we seamlessly connect to who you are. We completely surrender. Pay attention to what you're feeling, because it's not always about what you see. It's also what you feel. Lord, I pray that you encounter every heart in this room. want you to thank the Lord for what he's showing you. And hold on to it, because he may not be done with you. And I want you to take this into your week. Practice getting in his presence, feeling his heart beat in rhythm with your heart. And when you're ready, you can open your eyes. And if he's continuing to show you things, that's okay too. You can stay in that place. And I want you guys all to practice doing this, because it gets easier and you can do it in the hustle and bustle of what's going on, or in the middle of challenging times or trials. It's as simple as abiding in him and completely surrendering to who he is, that you will find that healing. Again, I didn't have to have hands laid on me to be delivered from intense fear and anxiety. It was simply connecting with an amazing God who is so good and loves us all so fiercely. He doesn't want us to have to carry those burdens, to live with those conditions. He just simply wants us to carry him, and he does the rest, right? But we have to move in that. We have to move in what he gives us. Standing still and just allowing it to be the fruit for us doesn't do anything. It does good things for us, but it's intended to be shared. So I thank you. Love you guys.
Thank you for tuning in to this week's episode of Empowered Living Podcast by Empowered Life Church. We hope it blessed you. Subscribe so you can stay up to date with our latest podcasts. If you'd like to learn more about us, check us out at facebook.com/ELC Talent, or check out our website, www.empoweredlifechurch.org. Have a blessed week.